Welcome everybody. Thank you very much for being here with us. It's a pleasure to host both guests that we have today. So I just would like to introduce them a little deeper so we can understand. Matt Coopers is involved with projects in launching innovation centers in Africa, as well as Nasser Mohammed is also involved with the ecosystem that helps, supports, and fosters startups in there. Thank you very much for being here with us. I would like to invite Nasser Mohammed to start introducing himself, like a very short introduction, and then we can move to Matt Coopers.
So much for having me on your show today. It's a real pleasure. My name is Nasser Mohammed. I'm the Chief Operating Officer of Dominion Blockchain Solutions. We provide a whole host of services to private and public sector here, Nigeria, of course, Africa, providing blockchain as a service. It's a pleasure again to be here. Thank you.
Matt, could you introduce yourself?
Thank you very much, Rodrigo, for the great opportunity being on the show. Yeah, so my name is Matt Coopers. I'm based in London. We develop ecosystems. Over the past 10 years or so, we have been working with the European Commission, advising and helping building the European ecosystem. We're currently also working on a project. It's early stage though, but we're looking to develop an ecosystem of 4 different digital innovation hubs across the key markets in Africa. And over the course of the past 2 years or so, we've been doing extensive research in the space and are currently in the process of finalizing the draft of the project, basically, and scoping out potential partners. And so I'm here today to talk a bit about our experience so far in the space, and hopefully I can contribute as much as I can to the conversation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Matt, for being here with us. So let me start with Mohammed. Mohammed, on your opinion, could you give us like a short and brief comparison of what you are seeing in Africa today in terms of entrepreneurship, startups, tech entrepreneurship, impact-driven entrepreneurship, compared to like 10 years before? What happened over the last 10 years?
Thank you very much. Actually, I'd like to go further behind. Let's go 20 years, then 10 years, and then we can talk about today. So 20 years ago, even more than that, Africa had the perception being a continent in decline, right? But then moving forward, we have seen a great democratic change, a demographical change in the shape up of the continent, and that has been brought up by activities and improvements brought about information technology, the internet essentially. And I'm very excited to say that this has really increased exponentially the development across Africa, in Nigeria, in Kenya, South Africa, all over the continent, right? So taking that picture just 10 years ago, we can look at how the internet has been able to allow African countries to leapfrog against their counterparts. As a Nigerian, I'm very happy to say that we had access to better financial services in terms of the usability of certain apps and certain services in the financial sector in Nigeria before you could even see the likes of it, perhaps even in the UK. And this was because Africa was not bound by old legacy internet systems, and we were able to utilize the internet to leapfrog, use these new innovations that are coming in and provide at a much more faster pace to a much more broader part of society, innovative services within fintech, provision of public services, also within private sector. Now, I'm even more excited to say that coming now to the present, as we are proceeding into the 5th industrial revolution with new technologies within machine learning, AI, blockchain, improvements in financial technology, the improvements are just going even faster, and it has much more better impact for everybody living in Africa. So that being said, how has this impacted innovation across the continent, also within Nigeria, and what does it mean for investors coming into the continent? It means fantastic news. Currently in Africa, Africa is one of the fastest growing populations globally. But more importantly, when you look down into the detail, the population is made up of the youth, those from 16 all the way to 35 and even up to 40. We have the fastest growing youth population across the world. And this means that we have a broader market for internet services and basically talent, which can be exploited, which can be given the right funding and the right business environment to ensure that we're able to exploit all of these new technologies that are coming. So my own perspective, and I think this is changing the narrative across Africa, I've seen fantastic companies such as Paystack, Flutterwave, changing what it means to actually improve access to services, basic services such as
Como que a gente pode
financial
melhorar os
inclusion.
serviços básicos?
We are very, very happy about that, and I think the
Nós
future
estamos
just looks
muito
bright.
felizes com essa mudança.
Well, that's awesome to hear, and I guess
muito
based
bom
on
ouvir
what you just said, Matt, I would like to ask you why a project to build innovation centers in Africa? What are you looking for? What are the main goals for a project like this?
Yeah, thank you very much, Rodrigo. I mean, I want to build on what my predecessor just mentioned. I mean, in the year 2000, The Economist titled on the front cover, Africa, the Hopeless Continent. In 2011, The Economist put Africa on the front cover saying the hopeful continent. And in 2019, The Economist put Africa on the front cover saying the new scramble for Africa. So basically, what I'm trying to say is there used to be the old narrative like 20 years ago that the continent Africa is obviously maybe not a good space basically to embrace innovation technology. However, at the moment, I mean, there's really a scramble for Africa. Africa is such a rich continent with lots of resources currently, and the biggest resource is actually it's young people. So the average age is around 19, 20 years old of the entire continent, that is. And then there's also lots of other resources, obviously, in raw materials.
Muitos outros recursos que estão
in large
chegando
parts,
para nós.
well connected now through 3 and 4G, 5G's coming as well. So the whole continent is very, very promising.
Obviamente,
Plus,
todo
you
o
have
continente
also
está
lots of
engajado
talent
nessa jornada
streaming
para o
into
futuro.
Africa, which we can call like some backward brain drain,
nós
basically.
podemos chamar, por exemplo,
I live in London, and
pessoas que estão engajadas
there's the
nisso.
largest African expat community, and you see so many people from the UK, from the US, young Black Africans come, going to Europe, going to the US, taking degrees, MBAs, PhDs, and then returning to the home continent to start building big things. So that has never been at this scale before. So there's a huge opportunity currently, and I see primarily the opportunity in the people and in the hunger, basically, of the population to build new things. And Africa is on the rise. There are so many figures. If you look into venture capital funding, for instance, last year was the first year where venture capital broke through the $1 billion year mark. That was the first time when more than $1 billion was invested into tech projects all across Africa, startup projects, SME projects. If you look into incubators, following our analysis, there are over 660 incubators and accelerators all across Africa. They have large grassroots organizations such as AfriLabs, for instance, a huge network of incubators and accelerators all across Africa that are also building the narrative and reaching out
Estamos
to
tendo
policymakers
dificuldades
across
técnicas com a
Africa.
chegada do som original para a
And then
tradução.
you see on the top level the development of forming the African Union, where most of the 54 to 56 states have already signed the declaration to form a single market, similar to the European Union or the US market. And then there's also currently talks underway of developing a single currency in Africa. So there's lots of rapid developments taking place currently that
Então nós temos
are
grandes
very
desenvolvimentos e rápidos
interesting
desenvolvimentos
indicators for
acontecendo ao mesmo
very
tempo.
promising high technology economy in the making. And I guess the next 5 to 10 years or so, Africa will be at a very different place. So it's very exciting to be there now.
Such an interesting, let's say, way of putting things into perspective. Mohammed, based on all that you have said, both of you, what are your vision from now on? What do you think is going to happen on the next 5-10 years based on the changes that you have seen, based on the changes that you are helping to build together with all the entire ecosystem in Africa continent?
Maybe I can jump in between.
Yeah. Yeah, Mohammed, we are not hearing you. Meanwhile, let me just go to Matt, and then if you can unmute yourself, then we go back to you. Matt, how about you? What are you envisioning for Africa from this point on, based on what you said and what Mohammed said, and the perspectives of having new innovation centers in there, as well as this population growing up and getting more prepared and better prepared, I would say, as well.
Yeah, so what I expect from Africa, I mean, the thing is, we always talk about Africa as a country, right? But it's actually 54 recognized
Como
countries.
conglomerado, nós estamos falando de
We have to put
54
things into
países
perspective. That's
reconhecidos.
what I'm trying to say.
E tem muita
However,
perspectiva aqui
the
envolvida,
African
mas
continent is in a very peculiar
o
stage
continente
currently. We have
africano,
very high developed areas such as
nós temos
Kenya,
áreas
South Africa,
extremamente
Ghana,
bem desenvolvidas,
Nigeria, where you have high-level
como a
ecosystems
Nigéria,
taking place.
enquanto nós
You
temos
have the northern
outros
part of Africa as well, the
momentos
Maghreb,
também, outras partes da África também que também estão passando por
Egypt.
grande
So
desenvolvimento.
these are also very interesting places when it comes to tech ecosystems. However, and then
E
on the
quando
other
nós
hand, you
falamos
have
de
also areas such as
ecossistemas,
Mali,
agora,
for
quando a
instance,
gente fala,
where the government has been thrown over, and the NATO
o
troops are actually
governo
pulling out
não
currently
tem
because there's a
controle
military
sobre o que
conflict.
está acontecendo,
You have
sobre
the northern
o que
part of
está entrando, o que
Nigeria,
não
where
está.
Boko Haram, terrorist organization, is causing military conflict. So these are all areas basically which are very different to each
Estas são
other.
áreas
So we want to
basicamente que
focus
são
on
bastante
the high
difíceis
tech
de serem
areas.
controladas,
And
de
what I
serem
expect from these
visualizadas.
areas to happen is
Agora, o que eu espero que
they're
isso
just basically
aconteça é
growing and driving the innovation ecosystem development process, and that in itself is actually also contributing to the private sector development process, because where you have startups, there you have always investment. Where you have startups, there you have growing SMEs at some point. These will all provide solutions to the local economy, to the people. We're
isso é
looking into
prover
green tech, we're
soluções para a
looking
economia
into
local.
medtech, we're looking into health tech,
Nossa.
we're looking into regenerative
E
energies.
quando nós
So
falamos
these
de
people, these
criação de
startups, these
energia, de
SMEs, they will all
geração de
provide
energia,
solutions to contribute to the local economy. Plus, they will also
e de
create
como
lots of
nós podemos
employment.
contribuir para a
People will
economia
get in
local.
jobs, they will get an education, they will start spending
Nós
money,
estamos falando de
government can levy
investimento de
taxes,
educação, em
and so forth. So
tecnologia.
the whole startup / SME industry and those hotspots based on modern technologies such as blockchain, AI, they will actually drive the public sector development in the space. And they will also liberate people in one way, because African or most African countries never really had the narrative of the corporate world, such as we have in Europe, for instance, where we moved from factories to, in the 19th century, to professional services firms such as McKinsey, PwC, Goldman Sachs in the latter half of the 20th century. And then in the 21st century, we entered the digital era, basically. In Africa, Africa jumped straight from the agricultural continent straight into the digital revolution, basically. They completely skipped the whole corporate part, the whole industrialization. I mean, they have lots of
Eles
oil
tiveram
and
toda essa
gas and
parte de
mining, no doubt.
industrialização, de
However,
hubs
they never had
corporativos, mas
industrialization
eles
on a
não
defining
tiveram
scale, such as they had in Germany or
a
Italy,
industrialização, por
France,
assim dizer, da
and the
mesma
UK.
maneira que
So the
aconteceu
Africans are
na
really well
Alemanha, na
set up in a
França, no
way to
Reino Unido.
embrace digitalization, and they have already
Então,
done
a
so. And
África, até um certo
Africa is so
ponto,
well connected in
conseguiu
terms of digital
abraçar
connections,
a inovação
mobile
digital,
connections. So I'm
isso permitiu
expecting for
que
this to
mais conexões
scale even faster and
acontecessem.
quicker. And I think the next 10 years or so will be
Eu acho que nos
taking
próximos 10
the
anos,
modern parts of Africa at least to where the
nós
southern parts of Europe are at the
teremos as
moment. So
partes
I think
mais
they will
modernas
be on
da
par at
África
some point in
com
the near future, and this
fio
is very
mais
exciting development at
positivo,
the moment.
principalmente no que diz respeito ao desenvolvimento
To
e
Mohammed
progressão
with the
para
same
fora.
question. I guess we have you back, right, Mohammed?
Mohamed, a mesma pergunta. Eu acho que agora a gente consegue
Yes,
te ouvir.
sorry about that technical glitch. But I just want to build on what
Sim,
Matt said, and
desculpe por
thank you so
isso.
much for making these
Eu
comments,
gostaria
Matt.
só de
Essentially, the future
comentar
of
pouco sobre o que já
technology,
foi dito.
particularly within
Essencialmente, o
Africa,
futuro
lies
da
within being
tecnologia,
able to
principalmente na
utilize these new
África,
innovations within
está na
artificial
capacidade de
intelligence,
utilizarmos novas inovações que
blockchain,
diz respeito à
financial
inteligência,
technology, in improving the
blockchain,
lives of every single
tecnologia
African
financeira
within the
e
continent.
melhorar a vida de todas
As
as
Matt
pessoas no continente.
alluded, and Africa consists of multiple sovereign
Como vocês
countries,
sabem,
which would have
a
their own
África é
in what it
composta
takes
de muitos
to
países soberanos.
improve the lives of their
Então é
ordinary
importante
citizens.
entendermos o
But
que é
essentially,
necessário para
what
melhorar a
this
vida dos
presents is
nossos
that it presents an
cidadãos.
opportunity for
Essencialmente, isso
technology
representa uma
companies such as Dominion
oportunidade
Blockchain Services to provide this
para termos
technology to
serviços de
enable public
blockchain dando
sector
essa tecnologia
to
para que nós
improve
possamos
the
capacitar o
provision of
setor
public
público
services. So, for
no
instance,
que diz
something that might
respeito
be
aos
taken for granted
serviços
for
que
in other
eles têm
parts
que
of the world,
prestar.
such as
Então, por exemplo, em
identity
algumas partes
or
do
the
mundo,
provision of identity
nós
documents
temos a
such as marriage
questão
certificates,
da
driver's licenses, and the likes.
geração de documentos de
These are not
identidade,
so
como
easy for
certidões de
nations that are struggling or do not
casamento,
have the necessary
documentos
public
como
budget
carteira de
to
motorista e
provide
coisas
the
do gênero.
physical and
Isso
technological
depende do
infrastructure to
orçamento
provide the
público
services
para
to their
gerar a
citizens.
infraestrutura
Where I'm very excited and where
necessária
Dominion
para
Blockchain
isso.
Services is working towards is that we have
Aonde o setor de serviços funciona a
essentially
nosso
reduce the
favor,
technological
é quando
barrier
nós
from
essencialmente conseguimos
including the
reduzir
need for public sector to invest vast amounts
essa
of money in
essa
technological
questão
and
desse gap
financial
tecnológico,
resources in
quando nós
providing
temos
services and lowering it all the
os
way down
recursos
through the use of
financeiros
what I would like to call
para que
democratizing
nós
technologies such as
possamos
blockchain and
ter
artificial
o
intelligence,
uso
but most
de
especially blockchain. So
tecnologias
let me give you an
capacitadoras,
example within Nigeria.
principalmente coisas
Dominion
como
Blockchain
blockchain e
Services were
coisas do
able to
gênero.
create a very successful use case
Na
whereby
Nigéria,
we assisted
a
one of the
mídia
state
de
governments
blockchain
in
conseguiu criar
improving its
caso de
land registry
sucesso,
system. So what does this mean? This means the
melhorando
provision of
a questão
land
de atuação do
titles,
sistema.
and then the citizens being able to have that land title
Isso significa
to either certify
que,
that they
em
own a
muitos
particular piece of
casos, os
property.
órgãos
But this
do
is really
governo
important,
conseguem
mind you,
gerar
in terms of the
os
provision of public
títulos de
services, is
propriedade
that
de terra,
with
e isso é
this
muito
new
importante
record,
para
this
nós.
land title, building record, you are able
Os
to then,
títulos
the
de
government is then
propriedade
able
de
to,
terra e de
in a much more
construções
fair manner, tax
são algo
citizens
que dão uma
and
maneira
then use that
mais
tax to
justa
provide
de
public services. So,
tributação
for example, you
dos
have
cidadãos, nós
land rent
podemos
that
usar
needs to be
esses
paid as a
serviços
tax that you can get
de
from
uma
government.
maneira mais
But then, through the
apropriada.
use of blockchain, you're able to ensure that
Então,
these
com isso, nós
prices
conseguimos
ordinary citizens
garantir
have to pay in receiving this
que
services
cidadãos
is
saibam
brought down
exatamente
to a
quais são os
bare minimum.
impostos que eles têm que pagar
With the ability of the blockchain system to
e a
provide this
habilidade
service
de
at a
ativar
very
nosso sistema de
at a
blockchain
rapid and scalable way, you're able to
permite um
provide this
escalonamento
same service
rápido desse sistema
to an entire country.
para que nós
So back again to
possamos
this
ter
particular use case, we were able
todas
to
essas possibilidades
assist the
disponíveis
local,
por
the
país
state government
inteiro.
to improve its land registry system using blockchain. And
Então,
what this meant was that we're able to
os
help ordinary
governos têm que
citizens
melhorar
gain
suas
crucial
tecnologias de blockchain
identity instruments, which is land registry,
e poder
land
criar esses
certificates.
sistemas
And
de
this increased
identidade
the
para que eles
government
possam
revenues
gerar os
of
seus
that particular state
certificados,
government from a measly
títulos de
$1,000 per
propriedade.
month
Isso
to
é
about
bastante
1 million
importante,
per month.
principalmente no que diz
The results
respeito a
itself is
custos.
mind-blowing, and this just
Os
shows you the
resultados são
potential that technologies
fantásticos.
such as blockchain,
Isso
and
mostra o
especially
potencial
how
que
this
nós
can
temos
help
enquanto
governments
operadores de blockchain
generate revenue and use that revenue to provide services to its citizens
e como
can
isso
do.
pode
And mind you,
permitir
this is just
que
one
essas
application
empresas
of
possam prestar
our blockchain
serviços
technology. We have
nessas
other
áreas. E isso é só uma
use
das
cases where
utilidades
we're
da
able to
tecnologia
help
blockchain.
improve identity
Nós temos
management and
esses
credential
casos onde
management,
isso
and this
pode
can open a
ajudar
plethora of
na
other
gestão de
services, such as improving
identidade
financial
e coisas do
inclusion,
gênero,
getting services from
além de
government.
termos uma
So the future is
gestão
very bright. And what this
serviços
does again,
financeiros
like what
também. O
Matt
futuro é
mentioned, is
bastante
that essentially it
brilhante para
helps us.
nós.
This is revolutionary technology helps us
Isso nos
leapfrog
ajuda,
skills and
porque
bounds
esse é o
beyond what
futuro da
traditional
tecnologia
technology
que
can
vai nos
provide us,
ajudar
and then
a
improve the
escalonar
life
as coisas que nós
of every
precisamos
single
fazer,
citizen within Africa.
melhorando a ocorrência desses sistemas no nosso
Very
país.
enlightened, and I guess we all have now a better
Muito bem.
understanding of
Acho que todos
the
nós temos
prospects that
melhor
you've been
entendimento
mentioning, you and also Matt.
e nós
I
podemos
guess
também entender
preparing to
sua
finish up
situação
our
no seu
panel,
país,
let
a
me
situação do MEC.
just
Então,
ask
nós estamos preparando para encerrar esse painel.
let me just ask like
Eu
a
queria
brief question for you.
fazer uma pergunta bem breve para vocês.
What would you say about all that is
O
happening
que
in
vocês
Africa
diriam sobre tudo
that
que está
people don't know?
acontecendo?
Like we are
Que as pessoas não
broadcasting this event
conhecem ainda.
to the world through social media and platforms, but here in
Quando se
Brazil
fala
and Latin
sobre
America, we don't know that much about
mídia
Africa. What's going
social e
on
as
there? That's
plataformas,
not like
as pessoas não
mainstream
conhecem muito
information.
o que está
So, what
acontecendo
would
nos
you
outros países.
say
Aqui no Brasil nós não sabemos
to
muito o que está
our
acontecendo na
audience
África,
to
por exemplo.
better
Então, o que vocês
to
diriam
give them a better and more structured overview
que poderia
of
dar
why, for example, doing
resumo
business with
melhor
Africa,
e mais
why,
estruturado
for example,
sobre
connecting
por
with
que
Africa? What could you
que
say
é
about that?
importante conectar a África? O que você diria nesse sentido?
Well, one thing that I have to say about Africa,
Bom, uma
and
coisa que eu
for
tenho
all
que
of the
dizer sobre
nations
a
within
África,
Africa, is that Africa is a hidden
todas
gem.
as nações africanas,
And I'm very
é que nós
excited about it. For
somos
example,
uma
Matt mentioned
pérola
earlier that there are a
oculta.
lot of Africans
Eu
in the
sei
diaspora who have
que
returned
nós
back home. I'm
temos
one of them.
muitos africanos
Just
em
reached my
diáspora
master's
hoje em
in
dia
innovation public policy at Oxford University,
e
and I took a decision to come back to Nigeria.
nós temos
Why?
muitas
Because
pessoas
it's a hidden
estudando na
gem
universidade,
waiting
como
to
eu
be
estudei também. Por que que nós somos
grown.
uma pérola oculta?
And more importantly, it's an opportunity
E
to
mais
really improve the
importante,
lives of Africans on the
por que
continent.
que é importante nós
And
melhorarmos a
one
situação
really
no
exciting
continente
thing again
africano?
is that the ecosystem
Uma
just
coisa
keeps on
bastante
growing and growing.
empolgante
The
é que
level of
o
development,
ecossistema
the
aqui está
level of
crescendo cada vez
innovation
mais.
has been growing at an
Nós
exponential rate.
estamos
Matt
trabalhando numa
mentioned
taxa
that
de crescimento exponencial.
investments in innovation within Africa totaled about
E
just over 1 billion.
as questões de
But
inovação
then
na África
you have other research
estão girando na
agencies,
margem dos
and
bilhões
other
já de
investment
dólares.
companies projecting that this investment is going to grow to about
Esses
$2.8 billion
investimentos
just
vão
this year. So
crescer
now the world is waking up to
na faixa de
Africa. The
aproximadamente
world is
30
waking up to
bilhões de
see that,
dólares. O
yes,
mundo
because of the
está
young
buscando
population,
a África, está
because
buscando
of
saber o que
the
acontece aqui
new
por causa da
technologies that are
população.
coming into Africa,
E
and the way that
graças às novas
average Africans
tecnologias
are
que estão chegando à
utilizing and
África, e os
innovating,
africanos, em média,
using this technology to improve their own lives,
utilizam
are
essa
able to
tecnologia para
improve the
melhorar
lives of
as
those
suas
within the
vidas
communities. And this has become
e a vida das pessoas em
somewhat
suas
of
comunidades. Então, isso
a
se
snowball
tornou
effect by with more innovation
algo
comes
que foi
more
bastante relevante,
prosperity within
porque com
society,
mais
which means that
inovação
there's
nós temos
higher
mais
levels of disposable
transparência
income,
na área
and then more
política, por
innovation
exemplo,
comes into play.
e nós temos
So
mais
for the rest of the world,
indústrias
the narrative
engajadas nesse
has changed
processo.
from that, from what
O
was
resto do
said about
mundo
Africa
também
20 years
mudou um
ago to
pouco
now
no que diz
being
respeito a
as
o
one
seu
of the
olhar para a África.
hubs of innovation across the world.
Nós estamos
I realize that a
percebendo
lot of the applications
como
of these new
hubs de inovação
technologies
no mundo inteiro.
are much more
Nós temos a
innovative and bring
aplicabilidade de
much
muitas
more unique use cases
tecnologias
than what you can see
e nós vemos a
elsewhere in the
inovação
world.
também
The
aqui
population is
na África da
young,
mesma
it's
maneira como
vibrant,
ela
and it's
avança no
ready to
restante do mundo.
embrace technology and also run through into the fifth industrial
Nós
revolution.
vemos que nós estamos no
Matt,
a tecnologia entrando na quinta revolução
what
industrial.
about you? What would you say to
Matt, e você? O que você
the
diria
audience that is here in
para a
Latam
plateia
that
que está aqui na América
explains
Latina
why you're moving into Africa, and why should you?
explicar por que
Why
que
would you
vocês estão
invite like investors or
convidando
those
as
who might be
pessoas
interested
para
from Latam to also move
trabalharem
into Africa?
com a
Could
África
you say like a brief
e
comment so we can finish up
o
our
que
panel?
os executivos da América Latina ganham
Share
com esse
market.
processo de
Africa is
investimento
like
na
where India
África?
was, let's say, 20 years ago,
Bom,
maybe.
como na
I think
Índia,
a
20
lot of
anos
things are
atrás,
happening at a very high pace.
nós temos muita
Lots of
coisa
young people developing
acontecendo
really
rapidamente,
interesting things.
muitos jovens
And if
desenvolvendo
you want to
coisas
get
bastante
involved in terms
interessantes.
of either as an
E se você
entrepreneur,
quiser se
either as an
envolver
investor
como
or ecosystem
empreendedor ou
development
investidor,
person, or on the policy level,
ou até
I think it's a
parceiro de
very hot market
desenvolvimento de
currently.
ecossistemas num nível
So,
de
and I'm
ação de
sure that
políticas,
many African,
esse é o momento.
ecosystems can relate to Latin American
Eu tenho
ecosystems. I mean,
certeza
obviously,
que
from a climate point of view,
muitos
there are similarities.
ecossistemas na África
From
podem
a
se
geopolitical point of view, there are lots of
relacionar
similarities.
e conversar
And
muito
I
bem
guess
com
it's a very
sistemas da
interesting
América
market to get
Latina.
involved with. So you should
Eu
not miss
acho
out.
que
Africa is a
muita
giant
coisa que
on the
foi
rise.
desenvolvida na
And I
América
think we will
Latina
be
é
very
algo
surprised very
que se
soon.
aplica também na África.
So we
Nós
should
somos
get ready to
gigantes no
embrace
horizonte
the
que estão
African rise rather than just
prontos para
look the
abraçar a
other way.
inovação.
So
Esperamos que
it's
vocês
happening already.
também se sintam da mesma maneira, porque essa mudança já está acontecendo.
Thank you very much, Nasser Mohammed. It's been a pleasure
Muito
to host both
obrigado,
of you
Nasser
with us
Mohammed.
here
Obrigado, Mestre. Foi um
to
prazer
help us
tê-los aqui
better understand
conosco.
what's going on in the
Isso tem nos
African
ajudado a
continent, as
entender
well
melhor o
as
que está acontecendo
why
no continente africano,
investors are moving
para que
into
nós
Africa
possamos entender
and the
também
prospects. So I
os
couldn't thank you enough
motivos para
for
os
sharing, and
investidores
hopefully we're gonna see each
se
other
concentrarem na África
on
e
the
os
next edition
prospectos
with
também.
plenty of
Então,
more to
nós
discuss about the
vamos
African continent.
adicionar
So thank you very much
bastante
for being
informação
here.
aqui sobre o
It's been a
continente
pleasure.
africano. Muito obrigado por estarem aqui conosco, tem sido um prazer.